would be very important, because the members of the Privy Council are not elected, they are appointed by the monarch.
All right, well, with that we take yet another break in the program. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Insight. We are discussing the political situation in Thailand. Professor Uttam, I'll continue with you. Now, what implications do you see this turmoil will have on the Thai economy, as it is tourism, which is a mainstay of Thailand's economy, has been hit?
I think the Thailand, actually, if we see locate Thailand in the entire the East Asian economic dynamics, so East Asian growth came primarily from what they call the developmental state, and Thailand also represent that. Korea was a developmental state, Japan earlier was a developmental state. When the crisis in 1997 came, and that initiated from Thailand and reached to Korea and also Indonesia, and it is very important to understand what kind of changes other governments they did, but Thailand was able to not deliver to those promises. That in Korea they moved from what they call developmental state to a regulatory state. Means that the state will actually allow the institutions to safeguard economy, because this political bickering, it is going on in many countries, but the economy and those institutions, they should regulate. So in other countries, in Korea, they developed, let's say, Financial Supervisory Commission. It monitors what kind of capital coming into Korea, what kind of capital going out. Then they have many other institutions about the corruption, as our panelist also mentioned. So those institutions, they should take the charge. Even when we see Indian economy now, we have many regulatory bodies, because the politics is going, always it will be a contest, political contest in every country. But everything should not be decided or waiting for the political contest to be over, because it is not going to be over ever. So Thailand's transition from developmental state to a regulatory state, where the state is not intervening day and night, but it is managing the economy through those institutions, and the institutions, their nature can be that they are permanent, they have long-term goal, and they can, because now Thai economy is very complex. Thailand is getting over middle income country, so it's not very easy for bureaucracy to run. You need institutions where very qualified people, they can sit there, they can make the regulation, they can reform. So Thailand needs a lot of regulatory rationalization that Korea went through, Japan went through. But I think Thailand needs that. So this is a long term. However, they have to agree, and I think now the situation is that every faction in Thai politics, they agree that they have to settle their score, not disturbing the economy. And I think in that context, there may be some situation that with this crisis, Thailand will again, it will again bring a reminder to Thailand that some unfinished work that was not done in 1997 when the crisis came must be done. Otherwise, it will not allow Thailand to move from a middle income country to the upper middle income or a advanced country.
Ambassador Ponnappa, what do you think? Do you think the current crisis will change the economic landscape of Thailand?
Well, certainly it has a direct impact right now in terms of tourism, particularly to the Bangkok area. I'm told that Phuket is somewhat isolated because that's a very major tourist destination as well. I mean, just Phuket receives several million tourists from abroad. But I think if you go into the backbones of the Thai economy, we talked about rice. Thailand is also a middle-level manufacturing country in terms of plastics and chemicals, auto parts, very strong on auto parts, and I think this is something where there is both competition and collaboration in India, with India. Food products that were mentioned, horticulture, flowers, major flower exporter, and of course the great tourist industry. Now, when you start getting this level of violence on the streets of Bangkok, and Bangkok certainly is the gateway to Thailand, if people are not just going for the beach tourist part of it, then it's certainly going to get affected. I think we also need to look at the impact on the region, because Thailand holds a very central place in Southeast Asia. You know, typically when you look at Southeast Asia, there's the question of maritime Southeast Asia, dominated of course by Indonesia, and you have terrestrial, land-based Southeast Asia, where Thailand is the geographical center. Even if to get from Myanmar to Vietnam, you have to go through Thailand. So, and also north-south, in the sense that the linkages with China, the Kunming-Singapore railway and highway, all of that goes through Thailand. So, that certainly would be of concern to the ASEAN countries in terms of how it's going to affect their overall development. And I think for India too, it should be a matter of concern, because Thailand is a neighbor. It's a direct neighbor, which often people forget in India. We have a maritime boundary with Thailand. We share the Andaman Sea with Thailand. We have security cooperation in many respects with this country. And it's a strong trading partner. And I say strong because they have made full use of access to the Indian market. I don't think our exporters have done it to the same extent. And that shows up in the trade figures. So when you have disturbance of this kind, it's going to impact on all these things. It's also certainly going to impact on investment. Thailand was a major destination, for example, for Japanese investment, and even for European and other investors. That's going to be affected. But I hope that the different parties and power centers are able to establish some kind of understanding. Right now it does not seem apparent, because the threat, if you will, posed by the new politics to the old establishment is a paradigm shift. And I think history has shown us that when entrenched establishments feel that their power is going to be diminished, they will pull out all stops. So I think certainly for people in India, Thailand has been an economic destination, favored holiday destination. Our tourist numbers and so on are among the major incoming tourists for Thailand. So the sooner that there is some kind of peace on the streets and some level of understanding, whether it's a question of upholding the existing constitution or they might wish to rewrite the constitution. After all, you have the opposition party saying, you know, these elections are not okay. So there should be a coup in order to save democracy, in effect, which is almost a contradiction in terms. But this is a contradiction that I think the Thai people will have to resolve, and in the process, I fear there will be disturbances.
Okay. Dr. Chaturvedi, what economic implications do you foresee, particularly for the region? As Ambassador Ponnappa said, Thailand enjoys an important place in the region because of its geographical position.
I think, as she has rightly pointed out, Thailand plays an important role within the ASEAN economy, and within the bloc has earned several advantages in terms of special considerations for the rice export and things like that. But more important, I think, from Indian perspective, is this interest of Indian exporters that is at stake. If you see the transition in our engagement from framework agreement to early harvest to comprehensive FTA that we are talking of, we find that out of something like $9 billion that we have trade with Thailand, 6 billion is their export to India and 3 billion is our export. So there's a huge trade gap.
Right.
But the positive dimension of this is the compound annual growth rate of our export to Thailand is now at something like 29%, and import has stabilized somewhere around 8 to 10% on an average. So if you see this kind of trend, you see that the export is expanding. But what kind of export? If you see the diamond is our major export to Thailand, almost 15% of total trade basket. And then is the gearbox. And gearbox is a major tool that we are exporting to the automobile industry, so which is almost something like 9%. So these are the industries which would depend in terms of their prosperity to the larger stability in the region, larger peace in the country. And if these sectors are going to be affected, of course there would be adverse impact on our possibility to export. Then we should not undermine the investment part. Investment story is only unfolding now. Thailand from 2002 to 2009 invested heavily. We only started somewhere around 2008, and now there is a sort of precipitation that we see. So that, I think, is another important dimension which we should not miss.
Right. Well, with that, we take yet another break in the program. Stay with us. We'll be back with the final segment of the show where we discuss the road ahead for Thailand. Welcome back to Insight. We are discussing the political turmoil in Thailand. Dr. Singh, I'll continue with you on the economic implications of the current crisis. The economic forecast for Thailand, that looks gloomy. Tourism has been hit, and we are told that the current protests are costing the Thai economy $30 million per day. What do you think would be the economic implications?
Thailand has been a very resilient economy in the past. Thailand, despite all the coups that had taken place earlier, somehow the economy had remained untouched. And even as we mentioned about the 1997 economic crisis, and we talked of the floods that were there in 2011, Thailand has somehow been able to overcome these crises in the past. Now, this time around, the situation is more complex because this kind of political crisis which has taken place, unless it is resolved, the economy will not, be able to come out of this problem. So the root of the economic crisis actually lies in the political turmoil that is taking place in Thailand. And unless that the society in Thailand addresses the root problem facing it, the economy will continue to suffer. And we have seen that the foreign direct investment has come down in Thailand. The stock market, which had been rising earlier, has also suffered. And the economic growth has come down to 2.9, 2.7%. And with the political upheaval continuing to destabilize the country's political system, I don't see the economy really stabilizing, because Thailand as an economy suffers from certain drawbacks, and these drawbacks are with regard to the human resource potential in the education sector. There is also a lack of enough manpower, skilled manpower in the infrastructure sector. These two aspects have to be overcome before Thailand moves on to the next stage. And there are a lot of expectations from Thailand, because Thailand, as Ambassador Ponnappa just mentioned, is so central to the region. It is also a connecting link between South Asia and Southeast Asia. The Asian highway is supposed to pass, in which the trilateral highway is being built with the help of Myanmar and Thailand, India. the Trans-Asian Railway network, which would also pass through Thailand. These are various areas in which Thailand would play a very important role. It is also important for us because of the Indian Ocean links and because of the Andaman Sea that we share with Thailand. So the economy would be gravely affected if these political issues are not addressed, and the region as a whole would suffer. Not only the ASEAN region, the South Asian region would also be impacted by the instability that would be caused. And it is also not just economic implications, it would have tremendous security implications for the larger region. If Thailand remains insecure, it would give a handle to other major regional powers to play a greater role in the Indian Ocean region.
Okay.
And that would be something that would be of concern to India. And our business is only one part of it. The larger security situation in this region would be impacted if Thai economy goes on the downslide.
Okay.
And this requires basically political reconciliation in Thailand.
Ambassador Ponnappa, would you like to comment on the security situation in the region?
Well, here again, I do believe that Thailand is central to what's happening in Southeast Asia. It is important that we in India do not view countries like Thailand or Indonesia as distant neighbors in an ASEAN box, because we have boundaries with these countries. Today, a lot of the security discussion revolves around maritime issues, and Thailand is a maritime neighbor. There are many of the issues that we have dealt with in our immediate neighborhood in terms of countries with whom we have land boundaries, which then find an echo there. Do recall that the first talks between the Sri Lanka government and the LTTE took place in Thailand. Our own negotiations with Naga leaders have sometimes taken place in Thailand. And because it appears to be distant does not really make it so. There is a continuum between India, including of course our northeast, all the states of the northeast, and through Myanmar into Thailand. And there is also the maritime dimension in the Bay of Bengal with regard to all the issues, not just of piracy, which we earlier heard around the Straits of Malacca, but generally of being able to put in an arrangement through consensus among the countries concerned with regard to patrolling for the kinds of crimes that take place, trafficking in people, and so on. Okay. So I think there is a serious security dimension. Thailand has been a good security partner of India's, certainly ever since we started addressing this in a very focused way in 2001, and they have been very cooperative in addressing our concerns, and there is good understanding on these issues.
Right.
But if you have a situation where the political structures within Thailand themselves are unstable, and that is the current problem, then who do you talk to?
Right.
So I think to that extent it is certainly in our interest to have stability of whatever kind. Whether it is democratic or something else is for the Thai people to decide.
Right. Okay. Professor Uttam, before we wrap up, how do you see the road ahead for Thailand, especially in the days to come? And what about the Pheu Thai party? What future do they have with corruption charges against the Prime Minister?
I think as many of the panelists here, they talked about the very important role of economy that plays in the society. So I think economics or turmoil in economy may teach some lessons to the politics.
Okay.
And as we know now that in the today's era, information is very important, and the global finance is much bigger than the global economy. and information that Thailand is giving to the world is not very encouraging.
Right.
So in that context, there can be some withdrawal of foreign capital from Thailand. And this kind of, I think, situation, even the imminent withdrawal of any foreign capital from Thailand, I think will also make politics to understand.
Very quickly, we are completely out of time.
I should talking about the economic aspect. You know, Southeast Asia, including particularly Thailand and Malaysia, were very early destinations for Indian investment overseas, even during the days of the license permit Raj and so on. And some of our major business houses have had a presence over there for, I would say, about 40 plus years, 40, 50 years.
Right.
So these are attractive countries. There is a very natural linkage, not just civilizational, but in contemporary terms of security of economic linkage.
Absolutely. So a stable Thailand is in India's interest, and there are reasons to worry if the current unrest is allowed to continue. With that, it's time for me to wrap up the discussion here. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming to the studios. It was a pleasure having you all here. That's it for now in this edition of Insight. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.